Today is April 11th, 2019. Julian Assange, the creator of WikiLeaks, was just arrested today. He was expunged from the Ecuadorian embassy and arrested by London police, and there's already been a extradition order from the U.S. Submitted to the UK to extradite him. And so today's a pretty historically significant day, especially for me. For those who aren't familiar with my background, I work for Bitcoin.com, and I'm a cypherpunk, and I'm very much into the cryptocurrency and asymmetric empowerment of the individual and individual sovereignty, and creating censorship-resistant content. I think all these things are very important, and I've followed Bitcoin since the earliest days, and it was very much a way to stick it to the man, and it was created as a solution to these banks that were failing back in 2008, and it got its start in the market. It got a market price because of Silk Road, and people using it to buy drugs and practice agorism and conduct trade outside of the purview of the government. And I think that is a good thing. And it was really brought to light in the mainstream when the U.S. government sort of strong-armed Visa and MasterCard from accepting money and giving it to WikiLeaks, not because they did anything illegal, but just because the U.S. government wanted it that way, and they could get their way. And as a result, Bitcoin was used to send donations to WikiLeaks. And at the time, it just seemed so inadequate. But then, you fast forward a few years, and the price of Bitcoin spiked up, and turned out all those donations were worth quite a bit of money in Bitcoin, and it was an excellent way. And so I hope to see more situations like this in the future, where the individuals rise up and speak truth to power by using cryptocurrency and by using censorship-resistant content that cannot be stopped by the powers that be. And so this video is to show you how to do that. I am going to walk through a two-part video. The first video, let me actually just switch to my presentation. This is going to be a two-part video, and this is the first part. I'm going to show you how to create a blog using Gatsby and Markdown. And so, a blog is obviously a way to get your thoughts onto a web page so that you can share with people. But then how do you prevent that information from being removed by an authority, a power and authority? That's what I'm going to show you how to do. And so Gatsby is a way of building websites. It's a framework. It uses a JavaScript framework called React, and it I don't want to get too deep into the weeds, but it's a really popular way of creating websites. Markdown is a really easy to write syntax that can then be converted into rich websites. It's just a really easy way to write human readable text and add formatting like underlining and bullet points and things like that as you're typing. And it's become very popular in the following years. So these are the technologies I'm going to focus on, going much deeper into what they are, how they work, and the pros and cons of using them versus other technologies is outside the scope of this video. But in this video, I'm going to show you how to create a blog using these two technologies. And then in the follow-up video, I'm going to show you how to upload your website to IPFS, and then how to retrieve, share that link with people around the world in a censorship-proof way by writing the retrieval hash to the blockchain. That's what I'm going to show you how to do. But the high level is you'll be able to create a link and share it with people, and people will be able to retrieve that content, and no one can stop you. So in the future, if there is ever a leak by somebody like Chelsea Manning, which is what today is all about is this leak by Chelsea Manning to WikiLeaks, and then WikiLeaks publishing the content, and then the ensuing 7 years of Julian Assange being basically antagonized by the world powers. All kind of came to a head today, and so that's what we're talking about. If this situation ever occurs again, someone like Chelsea Manning could simply package the content and follow this video and upload that content and get it out to everyone in the world, and hopefully we can improve. People can use these tools to improve anonymity and leak data and protect themselves and easily distribute content in the future. So let's get started with this first part. I'm going to show you how to create a blog using Gatsby and Markdown. Oops. So there's really 3 steps here. We need to install the Gatsby command line argument, and just so that we're all on the same page, I have a virtual machine here, and I'm going to use this virtual machine. It's running Ubuntu Linux, and let's see, I'm going to go back to the base image. So this is a new image, and all it has on it is Node and NPM. So those are the 2 requirements that you're going to need, is Node and NPM, and they install quite easily on they come together in the same package, and they install quite easily on Windows and Macintosh. So that's another prerequisite. Node.js, if you type this in, you can go to nodejs.org, follow these links to the download buttons, and get Node and NPM installed. Let's see. So even though this virtual machine is spinning up, I'm actually going to talk to it directly through the command line. So if you're in Windows or Mac, this is the same thing you want to do. You want to open up a terminal and get to your command line. And like I said, the prerequisites is that you have Node and NPM installed. So these are the versions of Node and NPM that I'm running. These are the latest versions. And so this is where you should start. Like, go ahead and pause the video if you're following along and get Node and NPM installed on your system. So just to prove that I don't have it installed, okay, yeah, the Gatsby command line. So CLI is an acronym for command line interface. And so the first step is to install Gatsby CLI. So npm install g Gatsby CLI. So this is going to install the Gatsby command line interface tool that will let us create a sort of a basic boilerplate blog that's like 99% of the work will be done for us just by installing this boilerplate, and then we can go from there. And so it saves a ton of work doing it this way. Okay, so Gatsby CLI is installed, and then we need to download the Gatsby starter Markdown. Let's go to my notes that I created for this video. Yeah, so here's the starter. I'm just going to load this GitHub repository for GitHub starter Markdown, but this is the starter you want, and the command that you want to download it is a little bit different. So if you are unfamiliar with Gatsby, this is the place to go. Gatsbyjs.org, click that Get Started button, and start reading through the tutorial. It's an amazing way to build websites. It really is the future. A lot of high-tech companies like Bitcoin.com use it, and we haven't looked back. It's the future. It's the new way of building websites. You can do very simple websites. You can do very elaborate, complex websites, and everything in between. And they're very fast because it's a static compiler. So it's taking sort of the best of Web 1.0 and Web 2.0 and putting them together. Okay, so this error happens for me. It may or may not happen for you. It's fine. what you want to do is go into the Gatsby. So it created this new directory, this Gatsby starter Markdown directory. And so what you want to do is go in there, and I'm going to remove these node modules and remove this package lock.json. And that error had something to do with installing the dependencies. So by just deleting that node modules folder and deleting the package lock.json, and then running npm install, you're just manually installing the dependencies, and that error should not appear. It did not appear for me. It shouldn't appear here. So while that is installing, let's look at the next step. And then we're going to install the Gatsby plugin IPFS, which will sort of massage all the file connections to be IPFS friendly. And like I said, the ultimate goal that we're working here is going to be to upload the files to IPFS. And just to sort of give you a preview of that, the advantage of doing that is that anyone can download your content by running their own IPFS node, but that's kind of a high ask. The easier way that people will be able to access your website is through Cloudflare and the IPFS Gateway, which are two websites that you can go to and view content on the IPFS network. And this is sort of the power of IPFS, is this new technology, if you're not familiar with it, that really is amazing. It's sort of like GitHub and BitTorrent had a baby, and it creates this incredibly censorship-resistant way of transferring files around the internet. Okay, so that's installed, and if we just go to npm run, so now that that's installed, I'm gonna exit this virtual machine. I just wanted to show you what it would look like with a brand new machine, and I'm going to go into my directory here, and I have the same thing installed in this. Well, I'm just going to repeat that command here. Now I'm out of the virtual machine and I'm on my regular computer. So I'm just going to pick up from here. I'm just rerunning the same exact command I just ran, only now I'm running on my local computer rather than the virtual machine. And the reason I ran it in the virtual machine is because I have a lot of other stuff installed on this base computer, and I wanted to just have the same experience you would have running it for the same time. Okay, so that created this Gatsby starter Markdown folder. And again, I'm going to remove the node modules folder, and I'm going to remove that. And this is a video, so feel free to skip ahead. You don't need to watch me download all this stuff. Okay, so we are still right here on step 2. So that's installed, and now we can go npm run develop. And this is going to run a development version of this website, of your new blog. And that way we can take a look at it and see what it looks like. So we haven't edited anything. This is what it looks like right out of the box. Can actually just go right there. So this is what it looks like. Let's see. There's all this documentation on how to use it. You can go to the blog. This is where your blog's going to look like. This is like an example of a first blog post. So if we take a look at the code, so I'm going to go to this first blog post. I got to it by clicking on the blog button and clicking on first blog. And now if we look at the actual code here, in starter Markdown, that's where we're at. There's a bunch of good stuff here in the source directory. I encourage you to check that out, but really what we're going to focus on is the contents directory and the blog, and then this first blog, and you'll notice the file name ends with .md, and that's for Markdown. And so this is the content here that is creating the content here. So I'm just going to go and edit it, and because this is the development version, it'll live update. So this is some content. Bullet point. This is bold. This is italic. So this is Markdown. This is what it means. Like, so this is just written English, obviously. The Markdown has these little sort of syntax things that you can do, and once you get comfortable with them, it's really fast. And so if we look back on here, we can see it automatically updated. Like, there's my bullet point. Oh, I actually got it reversed. This is italic. And there's not really any standard for Markdown. This is part of the problem. Like, sometimes this is italic and this is bold, but in this particular flavor, you really just kind of need to play with it. But if you go down to, if you Google like Markdown cheat sheet, there's a bunch of these that will show you just the different types of syntaxes. So for headers, and and then that's what they look like, and different ways of doing italics and bold and so most of this will work. Not all of it will probably work, because like I said, there's really no standard way of implementing Markdown. Everybody kind of implements it their own way, but it's all pretty similar, so you just play with it. But so this is the idea. That's Markdown. This is how you start creating blog posts. So you're off and running. Let's look at how to compile this so that we can then upload it to IPFS. And so that's this last step. We need to install this Gatsby plugin, or this IPFS plugin for Gatsby. So I'm going to hit Control-C and close that down, and I'm going to go into the Gatsby config file. Well, first of all, I'm going to install the plugin. Let's just go to the website. So it's Gatsby's js.org has a page for it. It's also got its own GitHub page, GitHub repository for under Moxie Studio. And so first we need to install it as a dependency, and the -- save saves it as a dependency. If you want to, like, this would be a good point at this point to create your own GitHub repository if you're familiar with using GitHub. Obviously, all this stuff uses GitHub and tools like NPM, so it would be really advantageous to learn how to use those tools, but not absolutely needed. But this would be a great time to start your own repository for your blog. And then the way you would add new blog posts and update your blog is by pushing updates to your GitHub repo. And anyway, so this IPFS plugin is now installed as a dependency, and we need to edit this Gatsby config file. And just by following these instructions, we're going to grab this path prefix here, and actually if you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see there's already a path prefix. So we're just going to replace that. And then we're going to add this entry into the plugins array. So you can see it actually, let's see, here's the plugins array. So we're going to add it right there. And so those are the only requirements there. And then we're going to update the build script. So in this npm package.json file, this is the config file for Gatsby stuff, and the package.json file is the config file for npm stuff. And here in the script, there's this build folder or build command, and we're going to add this prefix paths. We're going to add that right there. So now when we go to build, and that's what I'm going to run right now, npm run, let's see, if we list and we go to the public folder, you see there's not very much here. What we're going to do is we're going to run npm run build, and that's going to populate that public folder. And what it's doing is it's statically compiling the whole website. So it's making everything like as efficient and small as possible, so that when people load it, it loads as fast as possible in their web browser. Okay, so that's done. So now if we go back into that public directory, you can see there's a whole bunch more stuff here. And if we open the folder, what am I looking for? Personal, and then Gatsby started Markdown. There's that public folder, and there's going to be this index.html file. And if we drop that into here, okay, let me try this. Grab the file path where that public directory is. You can put that in your web browser, and then there's going to be this index file. Oh, it's not loading because we have the IPFS. So this is effectively ready for IPFS. And that's why it's giving us this sort of weird looking directory. So that pretty much concludes this video. Like I said, this is a good time to check this directory into your own GitHub repo so that you can have version control. And you've seen that you can edit your blog posts by adding new Markdown files here and editing them. And you can actively interact with your website as you're developing it by running that Npm Run Develop command. And then you can build and compile your website with Npm Run Build. And so we're going to pick up here in the next video and show you how to upload your compiled website to IPFS and then share that link so that anyone in the world can view that content and no one can stop them.